You need to watch this if you crave chills down your spine. Welcome to Soul Studios. Here, true crime meets the unknown. Suspense lurks in every shadow, and supernatural forces whisper from the dark. We craft chilling, edge-of-your-seat short stories inspired by the eerie, the unexplained, and the most haunting mysteries. 3 new stories drop every week, each one darker than the last. Are you ready to step inside? Subscribe now before the next story finds you.
In the heart of the Louisiana Bayou lies a chilling mystery that has haunted a small town for decades. A young mother vanishes without a trace, leaving behind a devastated family and a swirl of rumors that never truly faded. Years later, strange and unsettling events begin to unfold around her child. Events so disturbing they reopen questions the community thought were buried forever. Was this just the fallout of heartbreak and suspicion, or did something far darker take hold in Bellhaven Bayou? If you crave true crime mysteries blended with spine-tingling supernatural twists, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. At Soul Studios, we uncover haunting stories every week, tales that blur the line between reality and nightmare and keep you hooked until the very last second. A late summer storm raged over the Louisiana Bayou the night a terrified father dialed 911. Deputies arrived at a dilapidated farmhouse in Bellhaven Bayou to find a wide little girl standing in the rain-soaked mud. She was barefoot, shivering, and humming a lullaby that made the hair on the deputies' necks stand up. Inside, the girl's hysterical father pointed a trembling finger at his own child and whispered, "She's not my little girl right now." Something was very wrong in Bellhaven that night. A young mother was missing. A forbidden affair had unraveled into suspicion, and now a child stood at the center of a nightmare no one could explain. Bellhaven was a tiny, swampy community on the fringes of the Atchafalaya Basin, the kind of place where secrets fester in the thick, humid air. Alice Beaumont was a beloved local. 31 years old, church-going, and known for her warm smile and homemade pecan pie at Sunday potlucks. She lived on a run-down farmhouse property near the bayou with her husband, Dale Beaumont, and their 3-year-old daughter, Lily. To neighbors, they looked like the picture of Southern family values. But even the friendliest porch lights can cast dark shadows. Unbeknownst to almost everyone in town, a love triangle had formed within the Beaumont household, one that would soon turn deadly. Alice's husband Dale, a lanky man with calloused hands from working at the local sawmill, had grown distant over the summer of 1998. Alice confided in her sister that she worried Dale was stepping out on her. Sure enough, whispers around town hinted that Dale was spending a lot of time at the feed store where Rose Harper, an old high school flame of his, worked. Rose was everything Alice wasn't: bold, city-born, and recently back in town under mysterious circumstances. Late one August night, under the chorus of crickets and croaking bullfrogs, Alice and Dale had a heated argument on their front porch. Neighbors a quarter-mile away heard Alice shout, "How could you do this to our family?" before a deafening silence fell. The next morning, Alice Beaumont was gone. Dale claimed his wife up and left after their fight, drove off in the middle of the night to cool down and never returned. Her car, however, was still in the driveway. Inside the house, Alice's purse lay on the kitchen table, keys in the bowl by the door, and Lily's favorite bedtime storybook was open on the living room floor. It looked as if Alice had been reading to her daughter before bed, not preparing to run away. Dale's explanation didn't sit right with the locals or the sheriff's deputies. Almost immediately, rumors of foul play rippled through Bellhaven. Dale and Rose vehemently denied any wrongdoing, insisting Alice must have left on her own, perhaps due to stress or postpartum depression. Yet no bags were packed, and Alice's adoring relationship with Lily made the idea of her abandoning her toddler unthinkable. The investigation kicked off under ominous circumstances. The bayou was swollen from recent rains, and search parties slogged through blackwater sloughs and thickets of cypress groves looking for any trace of the missing mother. The local sheriff, Elroy Sanders, questioned Dale for hours. Dale admitted to the affair with Rose, tears and anger punctuating his voice, but maintained he never laid a finger on Alice. Rose provided an alibi, claiming Dale was with her at her apartment most of that night, a statement that raised even more eyebrows in town. With no body, no weapon, and no eyewitnesses, the case stalled. Alice Beaumont's disappearance became the talk of front porches and the subject of hushed gossip at the diner. Everyone had a theory. Dale did it, Rose helped cover it up, or maybe Alice ran off to start a new life. Officially, it remained a cold case, unsolved and growing colder by the day. In the months after Alice vanished, Dale Beaumont did little to hide his relationship with Rose Harper. By early 1999, Rose had moved into the Beaumont farmhouse, ostensibly to help Dale care for young Lily. The community's outrage at this unholy alliance was palpable. Many saw it as practically a confession of guilt by the illicit couple. Lily, who was only 3 when her mother disappeared, was suddenly being raised by the woman who had replaced her mother. Family friends later recounted that Lily seemed quiet and withdrawn, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit that had been Alice's last gift to her. At night, however, Bellhaven's swampy breezes carried whispers from the Beaumont house that nobody could quite explain. Rose often woke up gasping in sweat-drenched terror, telling Dale she felt like someone was watching her in their bedroom. Dale would chalk it up to stress or guilty conscience and try to go back to sleep. But one night, Rose swore she saw a figure standing in the dark corner of their bedroom, a woman with long, dripping wet hair and cold, accusing eyes. When Dale flipped on the lamp, there was no one there, only Lily, now 4 years old, standing in the doorway clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mommy's mad at you," Lily whispered in a voice that was not quite her own before turning and walking back to her room. That incident was only the beginning. Lily began talking to empty chairs, nodding as if someone invisible was speaking softly to her. She would giggle at things no one else could hear, then sometimes stare at Rose with an unnerving glare, her normally brown eyes seeming to darken to a deeper hue. On several occasions, Rose, while alone with Lily, heard the little girl humming the lullaby, "You Are My Sunshine," the very song Alice used to sing to Lily every night at bedtime. Rose knew that tune well because she had once spied through the window, watching Alice rock Lily to sleep to that very melody. Hearing Lily hum it now, in perfect tune and in Alice's voice, made Rose's blood run cold. By the summer of 1999, nearly a year after Alice's disappearance, the Beaumont case had gone truly cold. But strange occurrences at the farmhouse were heating up. Rose kept finding wet footprints on the kitchen floor each morning, as if someone had walked in from the bayou during the night. The prints were small and bare, like those of a woman's feet, always leading from the front door toward Lily's small bedroom. Dale, increasingly irritable and pale from lack of sleep, dismissed Rose's talk of ghosts. He blamed bayou moisture or Lily sleepwalking. Privately, however, Dale was losing his grip. Neighbors noticed he stopped working at the mill and started drinking alone on his porch at odd hours. One sweltering July evening, a neighbor cutting through the Beaumonts' backfield heard Lily singing that same haunting lullaby to herself by an old, disused well on the property. The neighbor gently approached, concerned that a 4-year-old was wandering outside alone near a deep well. Lily was standing at the mossy stone rim, peering down into the darkness. When the neighbor asked what she was doing, Lily replied calmly, "Mama's down there. She's waiting." The neighbor hurried Lily back to the house and angrily confronted Dale. What kind of father lets a child wander alone at dusk? A bewildered Dale insisted he had just seen Lily playing in the living room minutes before. Rose grew livid, accusing Dale, "Don't you dare blame this on some ghost, Dale. That child needs help. We need to do something." That night, as cicadas droned and the humid air pressed in like a weight, Dale found himself drawn to that old well. Fueled by whiskey and fear, he pointed his flashlight down into it, half expecting to see Alice's face staring up. Nothing, just the inky black and the skitter of spiders. Dale's hands shook as he realized the stone rim was damp under his fingers, and his mind flashed back to Alice's warm smile. Overwhelmed by guilt or desperation, he dragged a heavy wooden board over the well's opening, as if trying to seal something in or out. Inside the house, things only got worse. Lily's behavior swung between eerie detachment and distressing outbursts. At times she spoke to Dale with a formality and tone far beyond her years, almost like a scolding adult. Other times she would break down sobbing, crying for her mama, inconsolable. Rose, now pregnant with Dale's child, a fact that scandalized the few who knew, reached her breaking point one sultry August night. She woke up to find Lily standing over her in bed, inches from her face. In the faint glow of the moonlight through the window, Lily's expression was blank, but tears streamed down her cheeks. "It's all your fault," the little girl whispered, voice trembling but oddly firm. Rose let out a shriek of terror, jolting Dale awake. Lily blinked, seeming to come to herself, then began to cry hysterically as if she had no idea how she got there. Rose was convinced something evil was happening to Lily. Whether it was the ghost of Alice tormenting them or the child's trauma manifesting, she didn't know. She only knew she was afraid of being alone with the girl. The next morning, Rose quietly reached out to the local pastor, Reverend Carter, and begged him to come bless the house. Perhaps an exorcism wasn't exactly Protestant fare, but Carter agreed to pray with the family. Dale was furious when he found out. He didn't want outsiders, especially not the church, meddling in his home. But Rose's desperation won out. One sticky Sunday afternoon, Reverend Carter arrived. Lily sat quietly on the living room rug, drawing with her crayons as the Reverend began to pray. He sprinkled holy water in the corners of the room and on Lily's forehead, invoking peace and protection. At first, Lily seemed unfazed, humming softly, "You are my sunshine," as she colored. But when the Reverend gently asked God to lift the darkness from this home and let Alice find peace, Lily's crayon snapped in half with a loud crack. She lifted her gaze to the adults. "She doesn't want peace," Lily said in that same chill-inducing half voice. "She wants justice." The Reverend stumbled over his prayer as Rose covered her mouth in shock. Dale exploded with anger, snatching Lily up by the arm. "That's enough!" he shouted, but his voice shook. Lily began to cry, squirming away from her father and collapsing into Rose's arms. Between sobs, in a normal little girl voice, she wailed, "I miss Mommy! I want my Mommy!" Dale's eyes filled with tears he would later deny. Reverend Carter left the house deeply unsettled, and word of the disturbing prayer session spread quietly through town. People began to speak of the Beaumont place in the same breath as local ghost lore. Some swore they'd seen a female figure in the upstairs window of the house at night, pale and watching. Others avoided the property entirely, saying the devil had taken hold there. All of this leads back to that stormy night, the night of the 911 call. It was October 2000, over 2 years since Alice vanished. A Category 1 hurricane had brushed the coast, pushing inland as a tropical storm. Bellhaven Bayou was flooded, roads cut off, and the Beaumonts were trapped at their farmhouse as rain pounded the tin roof and wind rattled the shutters. Inside, by a flickering oil lamp, tensions were at a breaking point. Rose, now 8 months pregnant and anxious, had packed a bag and told Dale she was leaving first thing in the morning. She couldn't take the hauntings, real or imagined, any longer. Dale, half drunk and enraged, accused her of abandoning him, just like Alice did. The argument escalated in the howl of the storm. In the next room, Lily covered her ears as dishes smashed against walls. Through the window, a bolt of lightning illuminated the yard, and Lily could see that the board covering the old well had blown off. In the split second of brightness, she thought she saw a figure standing by the well in the rain. A woman in a mud-stained dress. "Mama," Lily whispered to herself. What happened next has been reconstructed from police reports and the fractured, emotional testimonies of those involved. Rose screamed in the middle of that argument. A piercing shriek that neighbors later said didn't sound entirely human. Dale came running to find Rose in the hallway, white as a sheet, pointing toward Lily's bedroom. There stood Alice, or rather, there stood Lily, but something in her stance, her expression, was unmistakably Alice. Lily's head was tilted down, rainwater dripping from her hair onto the hardwood floor. Somehow Lily was soaking wet, though she'd been inside all evening. She clutched her stuffed rabbit in one hand, and in the other, dangling from Lily's tiny fist, were a pair of mud-caked woman's shoes. Alice's shoes. Dale's voice. Lily. Where did you get those? Dale demanded, though a horrible understanding was already dawning in his eyes. Lily slowly lifted her face. Her eyes seemed to catch the lamplight in an odd way, almost glowing. When she spoke, it was Alice's voice that came out, calm and cold. You know where, Dale? Rose let out a choked cry, recognizing the voice at once. Dale staggered backward as Lily, or whatever was inside Lily, took a step forward. You left me in the dark, in the mud, the child spoke, each word deliberate and echoing as if two voices overlapped. I saw what you both did. Panicked, Rose grabbed the telephone to dial 911, shouting frantically for police to come. Dale fell to his knees, hands outstretched to the child as if pleading. Alice, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, he sobbed incoherently. Lily's small face twisted with grief and fury, not her own. You should be, she said in that dual voice. Come see what sorry feels like. Lily then turned and walked out the front door into the storm. To Rose's horror, Dale scrambled up and followed, disappearing into the night after his daughter's impossibly sure-footed stride. By the time Sheriff Sanders and his deputies fought their way through the flooded road to the Beaumont farm, they found Rose on the porch, soaked and hysterical, shouting that Alice took them. It was nearly dawn now. The storm had passed. Deputy Ruiz discovered Lily first. The little girl was found sitting safely in her mother's rocking chair in the living room, dazed and humming "You Are My Sunshine" to her rabbit. She seemed physically unharmed, but she would not speak a word. About an hour later, as the search party fanned out, a deputy's startled shout cut through the calm morning air. Behind the house, the old well yawned open, its covering board thrown aside. The deputy's flashlight trembled on the scene inside. Dale Beaumont, lifeless and pale, wedged against the side of the well about 10 feet down. His face was frozen in an expression of absolute terror, and floating in the water at the bottom, almost peacefully, were the remains of Alice Beaumont, unmistakable in her mud-stained dress. After 2 years, Alice had been found. The recovery was grim. Authorities determined that during the storm, Dale likely went out to the well where he had hidden Alice's body on the night of her murder. The theory was that in his drunken guilt and panic, he slipped and fell to his death, effectively a freak accident or an act of poetic justice. But Rose, and indeed many of the townsfolk, told a different story. They believed Dale was pulled into that well by something not of this world. Rose testified, and the 911 recording confirmed, that Lily spoke in Alice's voice and knew things she couldn't possibly know, like exactly where to find Alice's shoes, which had been buried with her in the mud. In Rose's words, Alice came back for her justice. Lily was too young to provide any coherent statement. She was put in the care of her aunt, Alice's sister, far away from Bellhaven. Over time, Lily's memories of that night would fade into a fog of childhood trauma. As she grew older, she reportedly recalled very little of the events, only that she sometimes dreamed of her mother smiling at her in the rain. Rose Harper, distraught and feeling the weight of guilt, left town quietly after giving birth to a baby boy. She never returned to Bellhaven Bayou. To this day, folks around the Atchafalaya Basin swap theories about the Beaumont tragedy. In hushed tones at the bait shop or over strong coffee at the diner, they'll tell you the Beaumont house was haunted by Alice's wrath. They say on stormy nights you can still hear a little girl's voice singing "You Are My Sunshine" carrying through the cypress trees. Skeptics, of course, have their own take. Perhaps Lily witnessed her father's crime as a toddler, and her subconscious led her to the well when the time was right. Perhaps Dale's guilty conscience made him hallucinate and fall to his death. The truth may never be known. What is certain is that a young mother's love for her child proved stronger than death, or at least it's comforting to think so. In the end, a little girl's eerie connection to her lost mother broke a case that had gone cold, revealing the hidden sins beneath the bayou mud. Justice came to Bellhaven Bayou, one way or another, delivered by the most unlikely messenger. And if you ask the people of Bellhaven, they'll tell you that the Beaumont story is a chilling reminder. The dead keep their secrets until they don't. In the end, Bellhaven Bayou gave up its secrets, but not without a price. Whether it was a child's subconscious or a mother's vengeful spirit, the truth pulled Dale Beaumont into the same darkness he tried to hide. Some say justice was served that night. In Bellhaven Bayou, the dead don't rest, and neither do their secrets.
Every story has an end, but here, the mysteries never stop. Thank you for watching and being a part of this journey into the unknown. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there's plenty more waiting for you. We drop 3 new stories every week, so if you crave suspense, the unexplained, and the downright chilling, make sure you're subscribed and ready for what's next. Until then, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and remember, some stories stay with you long after they're told.